Okay, folks, good morning. So we got kind of a smorgasbord of a mess here, and that's just only because of the nature of the way I have to conduct this portion of the hobby, which is working on multiple things at a time, which is not my preference, but because there's drying time involved, and really because of washes. So these items that are here, I didn't bring the pegboard. There's always something. Oh, I probably don't need it. But this is what I airbrushed last night. Very, 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 very late. I airbrushed it, and then I had company. I had to stop. I primed it actually, and then I'm like, well, let me go ahead and airbrush these things for in the morning, so we can do them in the morning. And that's kind of what happened. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the table, and in the table is some of the stuff that we were working on yesterday. The Crusader, the A15 Crusader, the Marmon Harrington, and I put together the rest of the Panzers from Iron Horse Collectibles. Panzer 3G, the H, the Panzer 2s, and the Panzer 4E. Let's clear this area. Just be gone, foul beasts. Because we airbrushed, and the airbrush session was, I'm never going to be worth a damn airbrushing. I'm just going to have to come to concepts with that, because I ran into issues yesterday that I never ran into before. I mean, we went past them, but it was really weird. But and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Luckily, my hand painting skills will blow away any of these issues. Not hopefully, they will. And I was in such a rush that I ended up, well, I'll show you guys in a second. Let's get all this stuff off the sprues, and hopefully we'll have an interesting show. Hopefully we'll have an interesting show that people are interested in. I know it's a work day for some of you folks, but not for me. I save the plants closed, and I save all these days till the end of the year when you get a new set shortly. No point in blowing them all in the beginning of the year, and then you're like, well, I wonder when I can go on vacation. Okay. And there's one I didn't get a chance to paint, and that's the Matilda. I have a Iron Horse Collectibles Matilda that I never got a chance to do the Portland stone on it. So here is, all of these vehicles have been painted, primed in black. And here you can still tell the difference between the really poor airbrushing, not that it's going to make any difference, between the two colors of the Caunter scheme, or the two colors of the desert. And they're done lighter than they are. They're not like a heavy paint on it. As you can see, these are the two colors here. See if we can zoom in on this a little bit. Let's see. Let's freaking kill that, man. I can't see diddly you know what with that. We're gonna go to, let's see, this is the webcam. So let's press this little button. And I won't be any good on computer things either. I'm pretty much just a painter, just a brush painter. Resolution, no, we're good with that. Video format, configure video, okay. And this little thing comes up at the bottom, we'll pop that up, and then we will manually zoom in, apply, okay. Because I'm not afraid to show the things that I come up with that don't come out perfect. Maybe it's encouraging for some of you. Oh man, this looks like crap. I don't know how I'm gonna make it look better. I will. I'll show you how to make it look better. It's easy. Better get used to correcting your mistakes because shit always happens. So here is the two. See if I can get them on screen here. And I'm going to leave my, see that's on my light. it's a little too bright and I can't see the screen real well. So this is a little bit more true what it looks like. We have the LEDs up at the, on the room. Actually, I'm going to zoom one little bit. See if I can do that. Zoom out one little bit. Webcam. Nope. Yeah, that's the one. Let's do this. And configure video. Should be easier. Maybe there's a button you can press to zoom in and out or whatever. I'm just, I am not your guy for video tips. Configure video. Come on. All right. And this is all the way in, so let's back this out a little bit. There we go. Apply. Okay. And close. All right. That's better. All right, so here's the two colors on a black base. This is what we start with, okay? And just to kind of show you pretty much where we're going to end up, this Crusader will end up looking like this by the time we're done. And these two will end up being like that. But there's some accentuation of different things, and the whole purpose is so you don't, if I was going to hand brush paint this, it would take forever and you could see some lines and it would just generally takes longer. And while I'm doing it, I might as well do some kind of highlighting. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference the way I paint things, but the fact that, you know, there's paint that is stronger in some, we'll call it stronger in some places more than others, but it's an opportunity to mess with some trigger control. You know, if I don't botch it up. Now, I was a fan of this stuff and I still am, and I said one of the reasons I'm a fan of it is you don't have to thin it. And I guess yesterday I wanted to eat my words. I don't know whether it was too cold or something, but it started getting like a pattern, and almost like it was spittling a little bit, which isn't a big deal because it's not thick and it won't cover it up. So it's still okay, other than it was jamming. I mean, everything was going sideways yesterday. So I'm probably going to get some thinner for Ammo Mig at some point, maybe, if it's not too costly, because I do like this stuff airbrushing through. But I don't know, this is the first time I've had to even consider thinning this stuff, but this is what it starts off with. I had issues with this one as well. So this is the Ammo Mig color that is called Sand Yellow, and if you match it up with the paint sets from Ammo Mig, which they were out of at the store when I went online, like, okay, what is the color for Portland Stone and Lightstone? Good morning, Ulf. Here is the airbrush issues I had yesterday. I think it might have been too cold, and it wasn't that cold. I mean, I was in shorts and a t-shirt, but you know, I'm pretty insulated, so I don't complain about being too cold. But it was probably in the 50s. And if you look at the Viejos, if you look at the Ammo Mig sets, this is the color they recommended for this Lightstone, and this is the color they recommended for the Portland Stone. Now, the Portland Stone is almost like a bone color, and the Lightstone is a sandy one. And as far as I can tell, what I've been able to tell about these two colors is they were used in overlap. The original color that was used in the desert was Portland Stone until they ran out of this, and then they switched to Lightstone. The other thing I found out, that when you're doing the Caunter scheme, that means the zigzag type of camouflage that the British use from late 1940 to late 1941. This was not used, the light stone was not intended to be used as an overall color. I did not know that. I read it recently, you know. Hey, Mr. White, hope you had a good Christmas. Yes, but I did not have a white Christmas. I found the episode, the Epi Tea Works. Oh my God. You found the paint works far better after I warm it up on my small radiator. So being a tad cold does seem to thicken it up. Okay. Well, if cold weather is a problem using the airbrush, it won't be a problem for long because I live in a fucking swamp, unfortunately. Okay. So this is the original color, and what it was called is Desert Sand. It's Ammo MiG 0029, and I actually wrote Portland Stone on here so I would remember which one it is, even though it's fading. Mr. Chad, welcome. Here's one of your prints right here. And there's another print right here. I haven't even gotten a chance to talk about it yet. So we're going to do a wash on these and paint the counter on here. But I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it on here. Portland Stone. Now, one thing I'm going to actually do that I've never done before is, because I haven't done this many of them, is using this counter set from AK, which these are not the same company, even though I mistaked them for them. If you want to look at what's Ammo MiG and what's AK and all the drama behind the scenes, look that up on the internet. It's really kind of ridiculous and fascinatingly ridiculous. But they're not the same paints. This guy, Mig Jimenez, used to work for this company, or he started it, and there's all kinds of drama. And then he went on his own, and, you know. Anyhow, this stuff is the opposite. This stuff is probably Vallejo thick. And you can hand paint this stuff just fine. So what I plan on doing is, for the counter scheme with these colors here, they didn't have the counter set for Ammo MiG when I went to the store. So I ended up picking up this from a vendor at one of the shows. And I'm going to hand paint the counter scheme on here. And then we'll give it a wash. So that's actually what I need to do first, so that, because this, when you do apply the wash likes to wipe some of the paint off. So these guys have set overnight, and we should be okay with it. But these are the two colors. The Portland Stone is MiG 0029, and the Sand Yellow is the Light Stone, which is Ammo MiG 0030, according to their paint sets that comes with it. But this is where we start off, and this is what we're going to end up at. And likewise, I guess since we're being consistent, the Portland Stone is this color on the Marmon Harrington. So this color will turn into this. So there's a lot of different levels and washes and stuff that goes in there. It's not like, well, that doesn't look like it's going to turn out well, because I would agree with you. That does not look like it's going to turn out well. But this is sprayed on a black base, and there is a little bit of a pinkish hue to this. There's a little bit of a fleshy pinkish hue to it, and you can see that color is here in a lot of places. But this is the other two counter colors represented here. But this color, from what I read, was never used as an overall color. So if you're going to paint your British tanks in North Africa a solid color, and you want to do them early war, you should not use this overall. Now, I think it looks fine. That's what I found in some guy that claims to be the authority of paints of that time period. Does it look wrong? No, but anyhow, so but they did use them on top of each other. Now, from what I can tell, they sometimes used this color also with the counter. I don't know that I like it. I don't know that I like the creamy yellow color with the counter scheme on top of it, but we'll see. And by the way, here is the replacement turret here, Chad, for the Matilda with the correct 2-pounder, and with a 2-pounder, by the way, cut down to size, and with the end drilled out. I did that yesterday. So these guys will be in, the Hall of Gorgon. This is going to go with Gorgon. The other one I didn't get a chance to do, I'm going to do it in Portland Stone with Caunter on that other Matilda. And it's going to be another G name Matilda. I don't know what it is yet. It won't, Gladius or something like that. Some name that's invented, but goes with the whole idea of kind of what it looks like. But last night I was in such a hurry, and I don't do well when I'm hurried. I went and sprayed. I was fighting with the airbrush so much that I was spraying the Portland Stone. I wanted this in Portland Stone. I wanted the Matilda in light stone because this matches the base of the other one that I have. And then I wanted the Crusader also in light stone. And I ended up spraying the entire Crusader in Portland Stone first. I'm like, damn it. So I just went over with a light stone. So this actually has Portland Stone on it first, then light stone on top of it. And I forgot to do the turret. So the turret is actually in Portland Stone. But I'm not going to go back and airbrush it now. We're just going to roll with it. So this is going to end up getting, the next step is this is going to get a wash of the strong tone from Army Painter. This will get a counter scheme applied to it, and then a wash with it in of the strong tone. This will get a strong tone wash, and now for something completely different. For now, the Africa core. And I was really concerned before I started doing the Africa core that I was going to, I'm not concerned about how things turn out, but if I haven't done something for the first time, I am concerned that I'll start making something. And then by the time I do 4 of them, I'm not happy with how they look and I want to change the way they look. And this is what I've decided to do with my Africa core. And let me do let me pull an Africa core vehicle that's complete using this painting scheme. And I am really happy with how it turned out. It looks like what I wanted it to look like. And that's dramatically looking different. I have to go back and watch that. WG3D has since sent replacement on that barrel to update. Okay. Well, I didn't want you reprinting a whole turret for me. That's what it would have. By the time I figured out there was an issue with it, I've already glued the turrets on. So it's not a big deal. You know? Might as well have them make a 3-inch version of the Matilda, which were used in Operation Crusader in the Valentine units for close support. But anyhow, so this vehicle will end up being like this. These were painted the same way. All this is Panzer, obviously primer black, Panzer gray, and then their little Sandgrau or something like that, which is actually very pink looking. Doesn't look like it when you have it on the example, but just some highlighting on it. So this will also get, it gets one more thing before you do that, and it gets to green ochre in, what do you call it? In dry brush. Then I will put the dark tone on it as well. So these two, this is ready for a wash. This needs stuff done to it before I do the wash, and this stuff needs done to it before I do a wash as well. Okay, so what we're going to do then is, let's put this back where it came, because that's how I run into issues. I do show and tell, and then I leave the things here in the way, and I have nowhere to operate. Let's go ahead and dry brush this. And I'm gonna warn you, this is gonna look like shit, like I don't know what I'm doing. Because that's what happened. I was experimenting with a half track. And I wasn't happy with what it looked like. And I just decided to do things a little bit different to get the right tone that I was happy with. Now, if you look at the Vallejo site, Vallejo's packaged paints that they have for like Flames of War and what have you, the color that they recommend for Africa Core is green ochre. As soon as I find it here, it is, let's see, if I had to guess, it's this one. Done. Okay. This is the color they say, hey, paint your German vehicles overall this color. And I'm like, well, I don't like the look of that. I mean, I mean, I like some of it, but I don't want the whole thing being a uniform color. So I was following their little paint instructions, and it doesn't look like how it turns out. I think that some of these paints just kind of get you pointed in the right direction, and then you kind of have to tinker with it. At least I do, to get it to where I'm happy with it. So we're going to put some of this green ochre here, and then we're going to get a dry brush, and we're going to dust the whole thing. Now we're not going to dust this the way we would do groundwork, where we would dust more around the bottom and less on the top. We're going to do the whole thing. Like, this is an irregular paint scheme that they put on here. And we're going to get most of this stuff off, and always start on the running gear. Because if you put too much on there, it's okay. And we still want some of the gray showing. Now, as much as I do like this this paint for airbrushing, it's trash for dry brush, for hand painting. It's just way too thin. So that doesn't mean it's trashy paint. It's just, you got to take extra steps with it. So you see this finish here? How we still have some gray showing on it? That's what you want to end up with. Oh, that's what I want to end up with. You might want to paint the whole thing solid. I just don't like how that looks. That's not the look I want to achieve. Now, the desert basing I have on my figures has 4 colors on it. 4. Let me show you what 4 looks like, so you know what the number 4 is. Sorry, I've only had 1 finger of coffee. And this happens to be one of the colors that's in it. It starts with English Uniform from Viejo. Then it has dry brushing of this. Then it has dry brushing of dark sand, which is a color very similar to this. And then pale sand on top of it. When I'm doing the vehicles, I'm actually not adding green ochre to the mix. Well, or the English Uniform also. I'm just dusting with a final 2. So whether it's a British vehicle or a German vehicle, they're getting dry brush at the end after we're done painting them and the washing and everything. We're dusting them with dark sand and pale sand. So that even though they're different vehicles, they still look like they've all been fighting in the same environment. And that's just a decision that I made early on. I mean, they need to look like they need to look different, so they don't look the same tone. But they need to look like, they're still, one of them wasn't like in fighting in Arizona and the other one fighting in North Africa. The same kind of tone, the same stuff has been splashing on them. Now this, I got to be careful because this is a headlamp that broke off, and I repaired it. Which it was interesting, Chad, because it was inside of another box. It was inside the Ziploc of like the Panzer IIs or something like that. But if I have the piece, I can fix it. That's child's play for me. The material that you're using is super solid, so it rarely happens. But it's kind of strange how some pieces don't make it and others do, and there's some really detailed pieces, and I mean, like the toe hitches and stuff on the Panzer IIs are incredibly detailed, and they've all come out. I mean, if something would have broken, I would have thought of it in that. Now we are going to put seat covers on here in some kind of leathery canvas type color, but so we can just ignore those. And this is the same thing that many people would probably be using an airbrush for. I just don't have the control, patience, or experience to do this with an airbrush. I've got so much more control with this. Plus I'm in a controlled environment and I have my contacts out. So we're seeing this in +6 vision. That's why I can't paint things that look sloppy up close, because I'd be painting this and it would be looking like crap to me. And that would demoralize me. So stuff's got to look good up close to me and 3 feet away. So that's why I'm when we're done with this, I'm not afraid of taking pictures up close because it looks good. Because I was there. I was all up in it. Now the strong wash, we got to go a little lighter here because a lot of these things are really delicate. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go to a smaller brush. There we go. This is like the roughest thing I'm going to do to these things, hopefully. So we're just going to avoid that headlamp completely. As much as we can. We don't want to put any pressure on it. And there's probably a million different ways of doing this. This just happened to be the one that I kind of stumbled my way on. And it's reproducible. I don't want a bunch of vehicles that every time I paint a new one, it looks a little different. Like they were painted by, different people. And this doesn't look very good to me right now, but I gotta trust the process. I was really frustrated with a half track. It was an old Fujimi half track that I had. Oh look, we missed a spider web. Where are the tweezers? Here they are. That's what I call these little bits. And there's another one right here. On the horn. Anything else? Oh, here. Okay, and then, yep, I figured there was some over here too. As much as I dislike cleaning those little things off, it's a lot better than, you don't have to sand anything on here. And that's a pain in the butt. If you had like a model kit, you have to sand things, that's a problem because you have to hold on to it while you're sanding it. This stuff. And I tried to shoot a video of doing this, and it is just I can't do it without somebody else directing it, without somebody else making sure that everything's in view. I wanted to do it, but it's too much. It's too much for me. So people want to know my secrets, you just have to watch the live things, or you don't have to watch it live. Just catch it later. And if I don't get everything in here, that's fine. Originally, this vehicle was gray. So I'm pretty sure that people aren't specifically worried about getting some of those colors in there. Like I said, this looks like it's kind of sloppy, but it all straightens itself out. I remember when Model Master came out with spray cans. They came out with these spray cans back when I was, in the early 90s. And they had a color, and the Africa Core color was always a pain in the butt to kind of get right, or to get where I was comfortable with it. They came out with a color called Africa Mustard, and it was a color that was similar to this. And it was like, oh, I just spray the whole vehicle in that, and then go and give it a wash and give you at least a starting point. Ever so gently here, ever so gently on that headlamp. Perfect. Okay. Now this needs to dry, because even though this is pretty dry, dries pretty quickly. Oh, we have a thing that's coming off. Well, if it falls off in the middle of painting, it's not a big deal. We'll just glue it on later. This is the starting point of the SDK of Z10. That's where we're going to start with it at. And you know, we got some spittle here that happened from the airbrush being too cold or what have you. That, you know, it's not thick or anything, so it's not an issue. All right. So this is going to get a wash. This is going to get a wash as well. Now what we got to figure out is what scheme we're going to do for the A10, because I need to paint that scheme on and then give it a wash as well. And then Matilda Turret's going to give it a wash. And we'll see if I can match up the look of Gorgon, even though I've painted them several months apart from each other. I'm pretty sure that I can. So, all right. So let's do the thing that I figured out how to do semi-successfully the other day, which is a screen, to show the screen. And we'll do some surfing here on some paint schemes, and I'll tell you what I think about them on the A10. That's what we got to do. That's what we have to do next. And we will go ahead and adjust this view. This should be easier to do than it is. We're going to configure the video, and we're going to go to this up here, and we're going to zoom out. All right, and apply. Okay, all right, and let's close this up. All right, so we're going to go to this screen called make sure I don't have anything that I wouldn't want to show on our computer screen. And don't worry, I do all that inappropriate surfing on my phone, whatever that means. Okay, I'll do it on my computer. I'm really actually pretty leery of surfing on my computer because of just going to some bulletin board. There's some hidden, you know, little gremlin thing waiting to jump on your computer and just create chaos. All right, so we're going to go to display capture, and we're going to go ahead and turn that on. Okay, and done. All right, and now it should show the screen as soon as I open it up. So let's open up a Google window, and we're going to go to ScaleMates. That's going to be my first stop, and I'm going to get rid of that so I can see what the hell I'm typing. I think that's ScaleMates. This keyboard's not very visible. And I'm going to try to surf with my glasses on, which is a problem in and of itself. Let me push them to the end of my nose. You're like a librarian. They're supposed to be bifocals, but I'm not very good at using them. All right, let's go to, even though I've had them for years now, we're going to do a search for A10 tank. We don't want the flying tank buster. Okay, and here's all the models on ScaleMates, and we're going to open these up, look at the instructions, see what kind of recommended paint schemes they have for them, and see if we like any of them. Because if we do, then there's pretty detailed instructions on how to do them. Whether or not they're accurate or not is another matter, but that's, you know, there's always interpretation. I'll be right back. I need to grab a soda because I'm going to be talking a lot. Hold on 1 second. you're not familiar with scale mates, which I wasn't at one time, it is a crowd. It was a community contributed website that lists for model builders in all kinds of scales, and it basically lists all the models that are available that people have contributed to, which is damn near all of them, and decals, all kinds of model related things in different scales, and people upload sometimes the instructions for them. I would have to say that 85% of the instructions that I have come, or the model kits are here, have instructions for them. So you could see, you know, how involved the model kit is, if it's got separate link track, if it's got stuff that you're interested in building, and also decals and so forth. So it is a treasure trove of really useful information if you choose to use it. So here we have the A10, and in particular this A10 is the close support A10. Okay, now Caunter scheme has very specific, supposedly very specific paint colors and very specific color schemes of where the color was added. So if you look at a Caunter scheme of an A10 tank, all of the A10s should have the same color in the same place on every tank, kind of like the same way that the U.S. did with their Navy camouflage schemes in World War II. You've got these dazzle type camouflage schemes, and they're always applied in the same place. So if you've got a late war Fletcher class destroyer that's in measure 32, I don't remember them anymore, then any Fletcher class destroyer in measure 32 would have the colors in the same place. Kind of boring, but you know, it is what it is. Well, the Caunter scheme is the same way. As a matter of fact, there's lots of things that are the same way that you may or may not be aware of. When I was looking at my research of painting a Spitfire, the Spitfire, if you're doing like the forest green and the tan camouflage, for like Battle of Britain, they basically came in two flavors, an A and a B scheme. And they weren't reverse of each other. They were different, and all of them would conform to one or two of those. So you can't just like, oh, use these two colors, paint it however you want. And they are hand painted many times, so there may be slight variations. But at least what I like to say is at least try to paint it exactly the same. And if you're off by a little smidge, then you're okay. So. But that was news to me. I thought it was like, hey, here's these colors, go wild with it. Nope. Wild, not allowed. So, okay, and I can't see what you guys type while I'm on the screen. I gotta go like, hey, did anybody say anything different? No, they didn't. Okay, cool. You know. So, so here are the A10 cruisers models that they make. Okay, and down here it's some people's examples that they have submitted of their models and what scale they're in as well. And then there's, you know, I guess they throw other things that, hey, this might be kind of like what you're looking for. So there's some A9s in here. And, oh yeah, don't you mean A10 Thunderbolt? No, I don't. But anyhow, so the most important thing is at the top. And you can also filter by scale. So you say, hey, I want to look at the models that are 1/72nd scale. You can click on this, and it just shows you the 1/72nd scale models that are available. I want them all open because I'm interested in the instructions and how they're painted. So we're going to look through these, see if any of them catch my eye. I'll take a photo of them with my phone, and then we'll have them on my phone. We can proceed to paint these so that it can dry when we do the wash. That's the problem with the wash is you have to wait for it to dry, and I'm not used to that using acrylic paints. But that's the problem with doing the wash, but it makes a big difference. The filter, so to speak. So let's just start from the top and work our way down. Okay, so Cruiser Tank Mark IIA and 2CS Balkan campaigns. So I do not want to paint mine for the Balkans because it's just a campaign. It doesn't really interest me at all. It's very limited, but we're going to click on this and see if there's any North Africa schemes for it. And we're just going to work our way down. So we click on it, or double click on it. Okay, and here is the particular vehicle. It's 2nd Armored Division, which has the cool little knight's head on it, which was used early in North Africa, and then they got sent over as soon as they pushed the Italians all the way back past Benghazi. Churchill sent these guys away to Greece, where they ended up meeting their fate in Greece, and most of them actually broke down, is what I understand. The cruiser tanks that went out there broke down more than got knocked out by the Germans. So if you scroll down here, it tells you sometimes they don't always do this. Here, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not, but here's the different versions that they have that's included in the decal set and what unit they correspond to. So you got 2nd Armored Division, 3rd RTR B Squadron, and it tells you sometimes, you know, what colors they have here. Light stone brown. Again, this is all community contributed, so if somebody didn't contribute this stuff, it's not on here. Then there's another decal set here for C Squadron, same unit. Okay, and here it even tells you what the number of the tank is and what the nickname of the tank. So this is T. I can't read it; it's too small, and I've got my readers on. So, but this one's named Blue Eyes, and this one's actually named Cool, and that makes sense because it's B Squadron. So it's a B-started name. C Squadron, it's a C-started name that starts with a C. Nickname that starts with a C. That's not always the case, but generally it is the case. And there's the headquarters of C Squadron of the same unit, and it doesn't have a nickname on that one. Counter scheme light stone brown. Okay, so we're going to go in here and we're going to take a look at it. And if it has the instructions up here on the left-hand side, there's a little button here. Oh. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't like this mouse. And it started scrolling without me wanting it to. There's a little button here called download. Okay? And that's what I'm going to want to click. And I'll click on that in a second. And then here's some people that are selling the kit and so forth. It's a super useful website. And it's a lot of fun to surf. I mean, you could spend lifetimes on this site surfing for different things. Hey, I wonder who makes a model of a, you know, swordfish biplane. You know, what squadrons did make a swordfish biplane? You go on there and generally look for just about anything on here. Okay? So, and other related products here, there's like some people have done some inbox reviews of this stuff as well, if it's featured in a magazine, and then some comments on here about what building the kit is. It's just a wealth of information. Now, let's see if I can scroll this without this thing freaking out. You know, here's somebody's example of it painted. See what this looks like. So this is kind of a half counter scheme, because the counter scheme really used 3 colors, and this is only using 2. And then here's somebody's version of it. How they painted it up. Wow, it looks like they got the same type of color schemes that I have. I like how that looks a lot. And it looks like they changed this one up for the 7th Armored Division. And they give you a top view of what it looks like. So right now, this is looking like a pretty good way of painting it. Okay? Interesting that the tank number is here on the rear of the engine deck. Interesting place for it. I mean, this guy gives you, I mean, you want to paint this tank? This is a pretty damn good guide. Assuming he followed it correctly, it looks okay. And the counter schemes have one thing that's kind of similar to them. They have these straight lines that all come back to a point at the back of the vehicle. For whatever reason, and you can see it right here. It's almost kind of like a prism. So this guy, I think, did a pretty damn good job with it. But this color does look like it's the Portland stone, as opposed to the light stone. And like I said, according to an expert, this color here, this Portland stone, was not used for vehicles overall. Like you could use this color if you're going to put it in with Caunter, but they were not painted overall in that color. Even though it would look just fine. But okay, so let's close this out. That's looking like a pretty good paint scheme right there. Okay, and we haven't even clicked on the instructions yet. Okay, so let's click on the instructions and see what happens. And here's the instructions for this Bronco models in 1/35th scale. This is a company that didn't exist, at least I wasn't aware of it, in the early 90s when I was doing 1/35th scale modeling. There weren't any weird company names. I think the weirdest thing is there was some stuff that was coming from the former Soviet Union at the time. Now there's all kinds of stuff a lot of Chinese stuff. Like there was no Chinese model back then. So, or at least none in my area available. So we're just going to scroll down. Let's see if I can use this to keep it from getting crazy. All the parts. So if you see something like Plastic Soldier Company, you order something from Plastic Soldier Company, there's extra pieces, you don't know what to do with them. I usually come to instructions to see if I can decipher where that piece happens to come. So there was a piece on one of Chad's models that came, the Panzer II, that looked like it was a piece of flash. And before I cut it off, I made sure that it wasn't, and it was not a piece of flash. So one of those little like tubes that go down to a point. Okay, so here's the first paint scheme. And according to this, this is C Squadron HQ, C Squadron, 3rd RTR, 2nd Armored Division, Greece, April 1941. And this is a different, this is the light stone, which is the creamier, the more yellow of the two colors. And here's this other color that's called, what do they call it, brown? Slate? Steel? Do they call it rust? Oh, here it is. Wood brown. They call it wood brown. Well, that's not included in the Caunter scheme from AK. So, but I don't think that this is a desert color. They added that for Greece. More arid. I think it looks great. I think it's a good looking scheme. But the fact that I don't have that color, which isn't a big deal, I could totally make it. And by the time you weather it, it looks close enough. But I don't really want to paint things for Greece. And I don't want to paint things for the 2nd Armored Division, even though I love the 2nd Armored Division's little symbol. So here's another one, also for Greece. Now this one is shown with a 2-pounder turret, with a 2-pounder barrel. So this is the close support version. I can't remember if they're a 3-inch or some weird ass diameter. I'm not going to look it up right now. It might have been like a 94 millimeter or something like that. But anyways, it's a much bigger gun that has some HE capability. Most of the time it was used to fire smoke. So instead of, they encounter some anti-tank gun and blast away at it, they just drop some smoke on it and then go a different way. And you think, well, that seems kind of stupid. But if you're blasting HE, it's something that's really small and you have to knock it out before you're able to neutralize it. So it doesn't eat up, 4 or 5 or 6 of your tanks before you're able to neutralize it. There's no guarantee to get a hit or an effective hit on the first 2 or 3 rounds. Meanwhile, it's blasting on you. It's a lot easier to just drop a smoke, which is relatively easy to get in the location where you need it, obfuscate its view, and then, flank it and knock it out kind of thing. Neutralize it with machine gun fire, that kind of thing. So if you think about it, maybe it's not so dumb. But your normal reaction would be like, well, why don't you just fire HE at it? Well, because the HE might take multiple shots to get at it. Meanwhile, it's killing your boys. And then here's another one here, also with a 2-pounder. Yeah, this is a big gun. I want to say it's like a 94 millimeter. I don't know why. That size sticks in my mind for some reason. I can look it up here, but you guys can as well. It's a big gun. It has no AP capability whatsoever. None. All right? So this is interesting because I don't think I want to use either one of these two paint schemes. That one guy did the model. That looks pretty darn good. Now, I suspect that if you looked at a paint scheme of an A9, how it's painted is probably very similarly painted. Okay, I'm not going to take a photo of this right now. We're going to make a decision and I'll take the photograph of whichever one I'm going to do. But this looks like a pretty darn good contender. Okay, so that is one model. That's a whole lot of talking for one damn model. That was just this first one here. So let's go to the second one. Now, what you might encounter with scale mates is sometimes they'll have the same instructions for two different models. And that's just, you know, somebody didn't bother uploading something different. It's not significantly different. Okay. Multi-camouflage here. This almost looks like something from Hungary or something like that. One of those Hungarian Toldi tanks with the colors. This has a lot of different versions of the tank, as you can see over here. This is the decals they have. Okay, including one here for the 7th Armored Division. So, I would like to find a specific paint scheme that's for a tank that took part in Operation Crusader. I'm unlikely to find that. So, I'm going to have to wing it a little bit. Let's see if there's anybody's built models on here. There are. Now, this guy decided to go with a Caunter scheme that has a little bit of a blue in it. See, I like how it looks. It's inaccurate, supposedly, but I like how it looks. There's nothing wrong with how this looks. I actually like how that looks a lot. Now here's people's comments. Great model. Really like this desert paint scheme with light grayish blue. I agree. It might not be entirely accurate, or maybe it is. I read somewhere that veterans have described the Caunter as a mid-shade of blue. Here's it. Going to the Caunter scheme using ammo by MIG paints rather than Tamiya mixes I used in the past. Definitely more blue than green and the ammo pale gray, but I think it will look good. Nothing like the bright blue we see sometimes. So, your interpretation may vary. I think it looks good. Anything else in the gallery? Here's the A10 that we looked at earlier from the other lad. And then there's some reference material that... This is one of these experts of this time period named Peter Brown. I see his name come up a lot. So we come up here. Let's make sure there's no comments. No comments. Okay, cool. You guys are just in awe. Okay. Or the bots are listening. Look out. The bots are listening. All right. And we're going to download these instructions. And this is the border models. Come on. Even seriously, the decal. She's like, man, there's some fun colors in there. So we'll skip all this nonsense that we don't need right now. All the way here. Okay, a captured vehicle. Move on. I don't do captured vehicles. This is a BEF unit in France in 1940. I'm also not building that stuff. All right, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes here. Here is an A10, but it is an A10 that does not have the close support. So we're going to keep moving on. Chad now had to make the barrel for this, so he can make one of these now. But when I purchased this, I could not get this particular vehicle. I couldn't get the barrel for it. So if I got another A10, it's probably going to be this 2-pounder version. What is this? Third RTR in grease. Add some green colors in there. Interesting. Another one for BEF, which I'm not doing, even though I love this paint scheme. I love this green and the black. It just looks. Why is this thing defaulting to this? I love this mouse, but it's definitely glitchy. Let's see if I can do this and have a little bit more control. There we go. Okay, here is a unit of the 2nd Armor Division before it got sent to Greece. This has got to be light stone. It is. Okay. This is definitely a contender. I wonder if this matches the paint scheme on the other one. Because here is a vehicle of the 7th Armored. It has, it's like 10 months before I really want it. Well, this is in January, so I guess it would be 9 or 8 months before 9 months before I'm really using it. And here's the colors that goes with it. So slate gray and the silver gray and silver gray number 28, and that's what this bottle is called, Silver Gray 28, and it is like a greenish color, not a blue. But I'm sure your mileage may vary depending on how you want to do it. But this looks probably how I'm going to paint mine. I'm thinking. So. All right. And that's the end of the instructions. Okay. So now we're going to go back. What is this? This is one from Cromwell Models. I never heard of Cromwell Models in 1/35th scale. See if there's anything to this. There isn't. I'm not surprised. Okay. Okay, that wasn't very useful. A10 Mark 1. This is a captured version of it. I'll click on it, but I don't think I'm going to find anything. And this is the variation that not very many vehicles made it to North Africa that had this configuration here. Because this has the thicker chin. Mantlet's a little bit different than the other one, and it has the Vickers machine gun in it instead of the Besa. Oh, they do have some. They do have some. See, they're all in France. I'll scroll to them. Well, these are not. None of these are armed with the close support howitzer, and they're of a version that mine is not. And they all have a France version, so I'm not going to bother clicking on that. A10 Mark 1A from Gecko. Okay, let's see what we have here. This is the 2-pounder version. Come on, mouse. What do we got here? Khaki green, not interested. Dark green, not interested. Portland stone, light purple brown. Well, that's one of the ones that went to Greece. There's blue eyes again. Yep. 2nd Armored Division, 3rd RTR. Portland stone, light purple brown. Okay. And here's a 7th Armored Division one as well. So let's see if there's instructions for this. There is. Come on, smooth a little bit. now we can make sure this is the first one. Ooh, the white stripe across the turret. That's got to be a training vehicle. Yep, in 1940. Okay, option one. All right, so we're not going to paint it like that. There's no point in painting it as a vehicle that never went into a war zone. Second Armored Division in Greece. I like how that looks. It's just in the wrong place. This one looks even better. This is why I want to pull this down, but then I like to overshoot it. Go really, really slow. Okay, that paint scheme's also nice, but not appropriate. All right, now we're getting where we're supposed to be. Now this doesn't have a top view of this vehicle, but this is HQ Squadron 2nd RTR 7th Armored Division Libya 4041. Slate, silver gray, what have you. Now, a couple things I'm going to look up. I'm going to. Oh, that's a 2-pounder version. Well, I bet the 2-pounder and the close support one is exactly the same. So I'm going to go on my downloads, my micro mark list for the 7th Armored Division. And where is that one? That one is here. Just once, and I'm curious to see. There's one unit that had A10s in it. In Operation Crusader. And that was the 7th Hussars. Okay? And it has them in a squadron. And it also has A10s in the regimental HQ unit as well for the 7th Hussars. Now the 7th Hussars got massacred in the first 2 days of Operation Crusader. But it's the one regiment that has a mixture of Crusader 1s, A13s, and A10s. And since I have all three of those vehicles, that would be a good fit. Now, one thing that's interesting about this is that the unit that uses A10s, that uses A13s, lists some A13 close support tanks, and I don't think the A13s they made is a close. One of the tanks they didn't make is a close support tank, and I think it's the A13s. So this isn't exactly the Bible. Or in this case, this Bible could be wrong. We're all human and people make mistakes. So, but regardless, they're definitely the 7th Hussars. So what unit is this particular unit represented as? 2nd Royal Tank Regiment. Okay, well this would have been not during Operation Crusader. The 2nd Royal Tank Regiment was not in... well, it was. No, it was. It was in Operation Crusader. It is just equipped with A13s at this point. The 2nd RTR is in here. It's just all A13 equipped. And that only makes a difference. The only difference that would make is, and this doesn't even have the symbols on it. You've got the Armored Division flashing, and then you have what they call Arm of Service markings. Let's see if I can find one on it. This little number here, this green 61, that's what would be different. That's the only thing that would be different. So what I'm going to do, I actually like this the best. This brown with that looks like Portland. It's funny. First just looks like sand. Then you start painting the two colors. You're like, oh, this looks more like this kind of sand. I'm going to take a picture of this. And I'm going to do it on my phone because I'm a lot more nimble on my phone and it's accessible from everywhere. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of this, okay? And I'm actually going to compare that when we're done to that paint scheme that the guy did and see if it kind of matches. Because that one doesn't have a top view, but the other paint scheme that the guy did does. Okay. Where did we leave off? That was this vehicle. Okay, now we're going to go to the A10 Mark IIA close support, and this is exactly the same vehicle that I have. Yeah, this is 52 Armored Service marking. HQ vehicle, 2nd Armored Division. And even though this has this grease type paint schemes that we've seen where they use these, although this might actually be, this tone here that's in the corner might actually be the mid-tone. Let's see if there's instructions on here. There isn't. But look at this. Look at this wild ass thing. Look at this. Holy Union Jack. We won't be doing that. Even though that looks kind of cool. There's one thing that's really annoying about the Union Jack. I'm a fan of the flag, and it's not really represented here because this was like hand painted. You got white on either side of the reds, but these that are at an angle, the white isn't the same thickness on either side, and it's like it's thin on the bottom, but when you come up here, it's thin on the top. It's really weird, and I really don't want to get into that. That's way too much, you know, and it doesn't look plausible. But it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. It obviously air recognition. And here's a spare fuel barrel up here at the top instead of at the bottom, like a lot of vehicles had later on. Any other examples here? No. Now I'm going to do one trick. I got to remember to come back to that. Something I found out relatively recently. Okay, let's click. We don't have very many more to do. Here is a close support. This has the thicker, earlier muzzle thing. Let's take a look at that. This is IBGs, or actually 1/72nd scale models. I have heard that some of the paint schemes on IBG models are incorrect. So whatever that means, one of the experts said, "Hey, don't trust too much what they put on here. They're not necessarily accurate, even though they're pretty comprehensive." This one just gives you the one. Come on. Connie. I'll name my tank Connie. An aggressive name. Okay. That's this one. Here's the close support version. Look at the instructions. These are ones that come with like a little magazine. It's funny, they sell the magazine. And by the way, there's a free collectible kit inside. I think it's the other way around. Like, you buy the kit and then it comes with a free magazine. Okay, here's a paint scheme here. It doesn't even tell you what unit it is. Let me take a look at that screenshot I just took and see if it's... It's not quite the same, but it's similar. I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot of it as well. That one at the bottom there. Okay. And And this is a 3D printed one, so there's not going to be anything on that. There's no instructions with that. What else is down here? Some painted examples. That looks beautiful. That looks absolutely beautiful. I love the way that looks. And I don't know what color this is supposed to be, but it looks freaking great. It might actually be the silver gray on top of on. That's what it is. It's silver gray on top of light stone. God, it's a beautiful color combination. He talks a little bit about how he builds it. Man, it looks sweet. I took an educated guess at a pattern, yeah. That's beautiful. I'm gonna take a picture of it, even though I'm not gonna paint mine that way. And it's a 2-pounder version, anyways. Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But I don't really want to pull things out of my ass if I don't have to. You know. So, what's this? This is just another review. It's an odd link there. I guess it gives you. I need to look over here and see if there's completed stuff. So that's pretty much end of the line. The only thing I'm going to do, and I've talked about one thing that I've learned how to do recently is let's go back here to what we were looking at before. Oh, now we lost it. Great. Okay, so let's just find it again. A10 tank. I think that's what I was searching for. Okay, this Gecko Models is down here at the bottom. There's no instructions for this one. There's no instructions for this thing. So I'm going to go and highlight this and then right click, copy, and then I'm going to create another window and I'm going to do a search for this, and hopefully somebody has a review or something else on there. Some of the vendors that sell these things actually have pictures of the instructions inside of them. Whether it's eBay or somebody like that. I'm going to see if this is one of these ones that, let's see if Mega Hobby's one. Hobby Link might be, what, this is this Mega Hobby thing. So let's go to their page. Visit site. We're not going to buy it. No, nothing on there other than that. All right, let's close that window. I don't know why Mr. Mouse is just acting weird. That was Mega Hobby. Amazon sometimes does the same thing. Okay, it tells you what pieces are photo etched. That's not very useful. My computer is sitting pretty far up, and it's giving me, my shoulders are hurting. So what are these little pictures here that we have? These are all 2-pounder versions, so not necessarily what I'm looking for. Oh, this wasn't the vehicle that I'm looking for. It's this one. See if this eBay seller decided to put more pictures on it than that. And the other thing you could do is keep doing that search and then go images. This is an unusual shot. So maybe this person put a bunch of extra. Whoop. Well, look at this. Somebody painted this in Crusader. See, you see this? These markings. These are Crusader markings right here. We're going to go here now because I don't want to lose where this is at. And see what he says about this model here. It's a 3.7 inch, 94 millimeter. I was right. Okay. So it's a 3.7 inch instead of a 3 inch. Standard ammunition load was 40 rounds, smoke, and a few HE shells. Okay. See if he talks about what unit this is. Well, this is a Crusader marking only. Later in the war, the actual symbol of the Royal Tank Corps is actually these colors reversed. So in other words, white in the middle. Now I know it has the canister here. See if he talks about what unit he modeled this at, because this looks like what I need to paint mine as right here. Except mine will have a nickname on it. And it's an HQ vehicle, that makes sense. Is there any arm of service markings on here? No, other than it is the HQ of a unit that used red, which could be 9th Queen's Hussars. Now, it's not wanting to zoom out on that page. This symbol here, what the F is that? I'll take my glasses off and look at my screen. Okay, it's a beat up jerboa. I can see the bottom of it. All right. Let me go grab some water and I'll be right back. Now, if you're wondering, man, you sure are spending a lot of freaking time on this. This is stuff I really like to do. I really like to do this. What I don't like to do is cleaning flash off of models. What I do like to do is this. So, I'm going to pull up my picture that I took of that paint scheme of an A10 overall in the Caunter paint scheme and see if it matches the pattern that someone did for this. Oh, this guy totally pulled it out of his ass. It looks good. He did a superb job on this. Let me look at the front of the turret and see if that matches. Not exactly so. Again, it's the spirit is in the right place, And I really like how they marked all these extra markings here for the HQ vehicle. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on the sides here. The only thing I don't like about it is this tank doesn't have a nickname, which, that's easy to solve. Now, if it is an HQ vehicle, the HQs definitely broke away from the standard naming practices. But I'm pretty sure, if I had to guess, this is a 7th Queen Hussars vehicle, even though there's not an arm of service marking on here. So I'm going to do a couple things. It's a lot easier for me to do it here with my camera. I'm going to take some photographs. And it is pretty darn likely I'm going to paint my vehicle like this one. I'm pretty darn happy with that. Let's take a shot of that. It's just easier to find on my phone than on my computer. And these vehicles, these close supports, they were in headquarters squadrons anyways. Look at the front of that turret. Look at the rustification and the drippings, as I like to say. Looks really, really good. Come on, scooch up just a tiny little bit. Thank you. Take a photo of that. The only thing I don't like is you look at the squadron markings here on the turret. I need to brighten them up more so they shine up against that slate better. How could something be filthy and beautiful at the same time? Well, you're looking at it. Okay? Now, let's go back. I wasn't even looking for that. I was looking for something totally different. Let's go back one more. Let's go back one more. Okay, we're done with that one. Okay, we were looking for this, and this came up. So where is the model kit that I was going to click on and didn't click on it because I saw this beautiful work of art? It was this one right here. Let's see if this eBay seller shows us anything inside the instructions there. Oh, he does. Okay. Okay. Here's the markings. All right, let's look at the options here. Option 1 is an HQ unit of 2 different flavors for the 2nd Armored Division. Here's this little knight thing there. And the second, does it have a nickname? No. This one's called Bullpup. And Bullpup is also the 52nd unit of service marking, also for the 2nd Armored Division. Option 3 is also a 2nd Armored Division marker, which I like the 2nd Armored Division. The problem is they weren't even in Operation Battle Axe. They got sent out to frickin' Greece, where things went sideways for them. Okay. So even if there was a paint scheme, it wouldn't have been an Operation Crusader time period. Now, it is likely that if there was a paint scheme for Operation Crusader for this particular vehicle in Caunter scheme, that it would be the same Caunter scheme as it would have been early in 1941 for a different armor division. Because like I said, those Caunter schemes usually followed guides on this color starts over here and it goes somewhere else. And that's consistent throughout all the things. Even different cruisers would have a very similar scheme. So let me just scroll down here, see if anything else pops out. It does not. And for good measure, I am going to go back to Paul Builds Gecko Models. What the heck is this? What is it? Let's see what we... Construction review of it, okay. It's the right vehicle. Okay, here's a link to the Chieftains thing. Oh, it's got an interior. Okay. I mean, I like this two-colored paint scheme also. I mean, we could do one of those if I get another one. Nothing on the instructions, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this first one that we found. Is this the same guy? Sure looks like the same. Let's see if we've got... Yeah, it looks like it's the same guy's model. Yeah. Yeah, here's his model here. One of these, this is the eBay one I was looking at. I don't want to buy it. I just want to go over to the page. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to zoom in. Can we make this bigger? We can. Now can we make it zoomed in? There we go. Can we get all this stuff on one page? Is anything up here that's visible? No. Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot of this. Because there might be, you know, I don't want to, I'm going to put a tank number on it. I don't want to do 3 days worth of research to find out that, oh, that tank number wasn't on it. I don't mind putting the wrong tank number on it, but at least it was a tank number that was on an A10. I can't give a complete shit about everything. It's just not enough of me. Now, with the pictures of this particular vehicle done, I'm going to compare the instructions on like the first one I came across. Okay, you remember correctly, this one had a really good paint scheme that somebody did from the top. This one. And I'm going to see if the paint scheme that this brilliant guy did on this A10 matches this one. And if so, then I'm going to take because this one literally shows from all directions what it was from. So let's see. This has got, this is a much clearer picture. Let's look at the front of the turret. That's the easiest place to see if it's... Yeah, it's real similar if it isn't. Let's go ahead and take pictures of Brett Green's model here as well. And then we'll get painting. Because I'm pretty comfortable here with what I've found so far. This is a super useful picture right here. This top view. Super, super useful. And you think, man, you spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. Yeah, well, you know what? After I spend 7 or 8 hours painting this thing, I won't be disappointed that I made the wrong choices. And that's really why I do this. I don't mind putting my own spin on it, but I want it to be an educated spin. Okay, that's the only thing we need to check out here. Okay, so that's what's up next. We need to paint these colors on here. Let's go back to this screen, and we can go back to this. All right, perfect. All right. Well, that took a while. So, the internet has all kinds of really useful stuff. Use it to your advantage. Use it to your advantage. All right. So, this is the A10. This is what we got to do next. And these are the colors that we're going to use from the AK set. So let's get a clean palette. And this stuff hand paints great. It really does. And let's get not a super thin paintbrush, but so basically at the beginning of this little soiree that took, I don't know, 45 minutes, whatever, I was like, I'm not sure how I'm going to paint it. Now I'm very sure how I'm going to paint it. Although I'd probably, if I had to paint a second one, I'd probably do one of the ones in grease. Just because they look pretty darn good. Now, how clean is the water over here? It's clean enough. Okay. I'll take things you hear in Flint, Michigan for 1,000, please. All right. So what we're interested in is the lighter of the two colors, where it's going to take place in. So I'm going to go over to my little guide here, and we're going to start with that. And I'm going to go ahead and put the turret on for the time being so that we can match the numbers. And I'm using a big one because we're going to apply this pretty thin anyways. Just to kind of get the edges, and then we can clean them up with something a little bit more precise. All right, so one line. Here we go. That's not bad. All right, one line. They're all going to end at this point here. And he actually has it going over this rusty thing. I'm going to make mine all rusty, so it's gonna blend that. But the ending point is here for everything. I feel like this isn't the right brush. It's a little too crude. Let me go over here. I want something relatively big, but one that hasn't been violated that much yet. I got a zillion brushes. Let's break out a new one. I think this project's worth it. Here we go. So what I just spent 45 minutes doing is something I really like to do. Some people may not like that. I do. So that when I make a decision, I don't doubt the decisions that I made, especially after I've spent a lot of hours on it. So let's get the areas where the green are on it. I'm going to paint them green, and then if we put the slate over it, we put the slate over that as well. All right. So this green line is going to go from the center of the turret here almost straight back. And then this green line goes from this spot about right here all the way to this where it disappears. So something like and this color is going to get darkened when you put the wash on it. So the fact that it looks too light right now, you don't have to worry about that. It'll all straighten itself out. And it's going to end on this end about, here's where this vent is. It's going to go from there to this disappearing point. And this area in between them, it's going to have the slate on top of it, but this area in between them can all be this color. So we're going to come in here and we're going to paint all of this on the deck. And I'd do this with an airbrush if I was better at it. Okay, let's not fill this in just yet because it's going to get a little confusing. This line that ends here is going to go straight to this point. All the way to this disappearing point. So everything on this side is going to stay the Portland stone. And then this other line, even though the slate's going to be the one on it, this area in here can stay this color. And I may screw up and actually paint something over that I need to repaint in Portland stone. It's not a big deal. I'd rather not do that because this Portland stone color does not cover very well. Okay, so that kind of takes care of the engine deck area in this color. Now this paint is going to go straight up. Up the turret. And it's going to go all the way to the corner. So this entire area here is all in this light color. This greenish color. All right, and it's going to go from this point all the way to the corner. So we're going to go from this point all the way to the corner. Like so. And all this part of the turret top is going to be in this color. It really needs to be on the left side of me. Don't be a fumble fuck. It's too early. Come on. I'm extremely right-hand dominant. Let's get the Marmon Harrington out of here. I'd rather not repaint over it. Don't be a fumble fuck. All right. Even though some of this is going to have slate over it. That's why we're just kind of painting this really thin. All right, and this should match. Like so. And then down here on this part, if I know a whole area is completely covered in slate, there's no point in me painting the whole side of this turret when this whole side of the turret is going to be slate, except for a little smidge down here. So we're going to go ahead and paint this little area here in this. But the exact angle, I don't really care because this whole side is going to be slate. Okay, and the whole side of this tank, let's see if there's another shot here. The whole side of this tank up to the fender there's a line that comes off the fender here. It's barely shown on there. You know what? All of this can be it's kind of a little flimsy there. What up with that? All of this area here can be in this lighter color. It's just going to have slate over a corner. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's thin this down. And this is going to go right to the middle of the vision slot. So something like this. So this whole area here including the fender, even though we're going to put slate over it, that's okay. This is super, super thin. All the way up to this line that we just threw on here. From here. All this area here is going to be this color. Ah! Fucking nearsightedness, man. Mole vision. The whole thing is you need to thin down this paint because we're going to go over it several times. So you make sure that everything is in the area where it's supposed to be. All of this. We'll add this slate afterwards. We just don't want to have to paint this over the slate. I'd rather paint over a lighter color than the other way around. You have to touch up some of it, it's not a big deal, but I don't want to paint huge areas where I'm trying to cover something really dark with a lighter color. All right, let's see if we can go to a view of the front. Okay, so this goes through the middle of this. What happens when you get to the front of this vehicle? Looks like it's almost all in this color. get to the front of it, it crosses this little vision slot. Comes in something like this. All right, now on to the other side. See if there's a photo of it on the other side. Slate needs to go away. I don't need to pick you up again until we're ready for you. Okay, on this side it ends with slate. And it's probably damn near close to the same thing. It's going to end here. We're going to go here, and then all of this, except to this corner, it's got a little corner where the slate goes like that. And even though we're going to put slate right over that, it goes here. We're going to go ahead and paint over this as well. So this whole area here is not going to be Portland stone. Now, a lot of this stuff will have slate on top of it, but it doesn't hurt anything painting this color on top of it because it's just going to get covered over. Even though the slate covers really, really well. And this basically, this whole fender here is not Portland stone. All right, let's match the turret up with that. This entire side of this is going to be slate. There's no point in doing that. And then the front of this particular vehicle will come in and be something like this, and half of this vision slot will be that color, and there's no green to show. There's no, this really should have called this something different. When you're a kid, you focus a lot on what a paint is called, and it doesn't mean anything. Just because a paint's called this certain thing doesn't necessarily mean that's the correct paint for that. I'm not going to bother painting the side of that because that's going to end up being all slate. So I think for the most part, all the big sections that we need to consider, except the front of the turret over here, looks like it's going to match. It's going to go across from here, and it matches underneath. So a line that goes like so. All right, now we'll put the slate. Now we'll pull the slate out. Actually, now I'm going to use the little boy's room, and I'll be right back. So the reason we're doing this first, is because we're going to need time for this to dry before we throw a wash on it. Okay, so we have this, we've rinsed it off. My paper towels took a hike. There's one over here. So you're looking at this like, it's not going to look right. Yeah. The thing to remember is you can't, all of this stuff, you can't do it from start to finish in one pass. You're going to have to tinker with it, come back, paint it. Now, let's look at this wizard that he decided to paint this and just confirm if he used this same paint scheme, and I bet he did. Yeah, everything looks like it's in the right place. Okay, cool. So we're going to proceed because it's really clear on this model where everything is. So let's grab slate. And I don't know if it mixed with anything here. I should be able to grab some of it off the top and it'll work fine for the purposes that I'm using it for. And let's thin it down a little bit because it should cover really well. And let's go to the rear here. All right, now the entire side of this turret, with the exception of this little part there, I'm going to put this back. Now, let's see, how do I want to do this? It's not really delicate. I should be able to hold it just fine. The entire side of this turret, with the exception of this little corner, is all going to be slate. So let's go ahead and paint the whole side slate. Watered down slate. So if you need to make any adjustments, they're easy to do while you're not covering this thing up with a lot of paint and brush marks, etc. that are difficult to undo. Okay, and the angle is going to come in something like that. Okay, so we've got this tiny little angle, which we can adjust if we need to, sitting like that. And it is kind of watered down on purpose, by design. All right, let's get a little bit more water here. Doesn't matter that it's dirty, it's irrelevant. And that same angle, we're going to follow it down. And it's going to end, seems like no matter where I put this is in my damn way. It's going to end halfway up on this fender. So the end point of it is going to be something like this. Okay, and this whole side of the fender here is all in dark color. Now between the drawing and the actual little details on the model, there's all kinds of little guides you can have to make sure that you have it at the right angle. Like I said, I'm pretty sure these were hand painted. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were hand painted. So there's going to be slight variations of them. Like, it might be over 2 or 3 inches one way or another. It's the intent that needs to stay true. So this same angle, whatever this is at, is going to cover was going to come across half of this little box. So half of this box is slate and the other half is not slate. So you got to get from there to here. So this angle needs to be a little bit more flat, so that you can go there, cut across here, head to this corner, reach the corner, and then go up. And then when you get to the top section, it's going to meet from here all the way like that. All right. Now that's one border of that color. The other border of the color is going to be and this is why you want to use the paint thin down, because you don't want to like, oh man, I'm over like 6 inches or a foot or 8 inches or whatever, and then you've got like all this thick paint you have to deal with. So this entire fender is in this slate color. And this is where we are so far. It looks like, man, you got a ways to go. We do, but it's well worth it. These paint schemes are beautiful. And let's just compare. I'm going to pull the Marmon Harrington out here, which is used the exact same. Well, I airbrushed more with it than I did this one. But that's what we're trying to achieve. So you notice like the Portland stone, the sand color that's here is very, very mild. It's almost like a bone white. When you add more of it, it becomes more rosy. But there's no point in doing that now, because there's no point in thickening that paint over an area it's not going to be that color. So, as time consuming as this is, you don't need to make it even more time consuming for yourself. Let's pull more of this over here. Now, the top of the turret. The top of the turret is going to disappear in this corner. And it's going to start. This is what I said about using guides. It's going to start here halfway in the middle of this hatch. So this hatch has whatever dimensions it has. About the midpoint of that hatch, that's where it's going to meet the top of the turret. And then you're going to have to drop a line from there all the way to that corner to make it disappear. All right. So the middle of that hatch is about here. Let's go ahead and remove the turret. And this goes to the corner, so it's going to have to, it'll disappear. So we're just going to put something like so. Break this stuff down into like simple shapes. Like, okay, this goes from here to there. This goes from here to here. Now, likewise, let's look at the back of the turret. If I have a shot of it, that doesn't have some dude in the way. All right, well, we'll use this. That same line goes straight down. But it meets this at a little bit of an angle. So we're going to come over here, and it's going to go straight down. Now let's check to make sure that we're happy with the angle that this side thing is. And I'm going to pull this. Let's see. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. We're going to paint this thicker, But we're gonna paint the sticker after we know for a fact that this is where we want the color in. And all you do is we're gonna put another thin layer on top of it. We're not gonna throw a really thick layer on top of this thin one. We don't have to throw a thick layer on top of the thin one. There's already a thin layer there. Okay. Now, before you get to the bottom of this thing, it does this funky little angle, and that little angle is going to follow where it's going to go across the deck. Okay, so let's turn our attention to the deck. We've got the edge here. We know there's going to be a line that's going to be about right here. I'm going to put this kind of in the center line of where it's going to go. And this thing's going to go right to this point of the prism where it's going to disappear. Like I said, I would love to have made a video of how to do this, but you know, I'm not your video guy. I can't be I could be doing all this and it's not in frame. So let's expand it. Let's make it bigger. You know, we drew a pretty straight line, and it's going to be at least like this thickness all the way down to the prism point. Okay. Let's just remove that. We don't need that right this second. If you're painting a straight line, always pull towards yourself. It's a lot easier to keep it steady. And this goes to there's no point in not going this all the way underneath the turret. Okay. So there is our line. Now you notice it's off a little bit from the turret on purpose, because this little line off the turret is going to do a little zag at the last minute. It's going to zag over like this. And meet that line. So then we got to determine how fat this thing is going to be. And if you look at it like this line goes, this edge of it is going to be pretty even with the end of this hatch. And it's going to be about the same thickness till you get to this bend. And that bend is going to start tapering down to whatever it ends up being. So I'm going to remove this again so it's not in my way. And we're going to taper this down. And this is the part that you clean up with a smaller brush. Once we got things generally in the correct location. Just like when you're painting heraldry, you want to make sure that everything is lined up where it's supposed to. And then once you're good with that, then you can pull the trigger on it. Okay? So that's how that side's going to look like. Pretty easy. And since we're working on this side of the vehicle, we might as well finish the front. And all of this is going to have a black wash, a dark tone wash over it. But when we go and do the wash, we'll do this one last. That way these colors have set as much as they can. We're actually going to thicken them up a little bit so that the wash doesn't take that stuff off. So, we left off at the corner here. If we look at the front of the turret, this color, even though it ends at the turret, we're going to have about half of the distance between this and the mantlet that is going to be slate. So we're going to pull a line straight down. And then this is also slate here. Okay? And now that line is going to go from there all the way to basically the inside of the fender. So we need to go and does it go across the machine gun? Yes, it goes right by the machine gun. So all of this whole fender and everything on it is definitely slate. And then this goes straight to there. And all this stuff in between this line, oop, had the turret turned a little bit. See? Even being this careful, you still make mistakes you gotta fix. That's why there's no point in laying this down super thick. And all this is also in the slate color. All this in here. All this here. Now I could mask this stuff if I had any talent at all as an airbrusher. I could mask all this stuff. That's not where my skill set is. You know, I don't have 20 years to wait to get better at that kind of stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fix our boo-boo, which isn't a big one, but it is something I'd like fixed. And that's because I didn't have the turret lined up how I needed it to be. And that's it. That's all we had to do. Okay. Now, as far as I can tell, the fender on this side is also slate. To some degree. Now let's show you how far we've gotten so far. Of course, this side we haven't really messed with yet. Okay, that's where we're going next. So, back over to the other side. The turret on this side. Let's do this. There's a little spot here for a magnet to go. And I don't know if you could get a magnet 1/72nd scale on here. I think you'd have to probably drill that down a little bit and put a little thicker magnet on there. I don't plan on putting a magnet, but that's just me in this scale. I'm not going to transport these guys anywhere. That's way too big. Let's just kind of fill in. Maybe even that's too big. Let's fill that little guy in like that. Then we're going to take this thing and we're going to put it and line it up. Ooh, let's not put that much pressure on it. Geez, I'm going to break it. I heard something pop, but okay. Slow down, killer. All right. This hatch, this line is going to go before you get to the second set of rivets. So we're going to go straight down from here. Okay, and this line is going to be on this side of that green one. Okay, so at the point where that meets, here at the bottom, that's going to go to this prism point down here at the bottom. And it's going to go through just on this side of this exhaust. Something like that. And when you get into this zone, it's going to take up about half of the space that this light green is consuming. So something like that. And of course, this whole hatch, this whole part of the turret here is slate all the way up. And all the way down. And then when you get to this side, other than this little corner again, all of the side of this turret is slate. Man, you guys are in awe, I guess. Soak it all up, because I don't have a way of making a how-to video on this. That's just going to cause frustration for me. Okay, this is slate. Almost the entire vision slot on the front is slate. And the entire side of the turret, save this little corner in is slate. That's another reason to kind of paint the base color kind of thin. There's no point in making really thick, good looking base color when a good portion of it is covered. Now, let's go to the top of the turret. And this is going to have a little smidge here. And a little smidge where this goes to the top of the turret there. And then there's a line that goes between those two. You can't really tell there because it has the hatch open. This one does not have an open hatch on it. We just need to connect the two dots. So all of this is going to be in this slate color. So that's what that looks like. Okay, we already went to the point where that is. So you got to work everything else from this zone. This slate comes down here to the corner. And about half of this fender is covered. Now, this line that we dropped off that point of the turret is going to go to this corner here. So we're just going to draw a line that's straight between those two. Let's water this down a little bit more for some flow. And we're going to go from this line on the turret where it meets the hull all the way to the corner. And all of this is slate. Now once we get to that corner, it's going to go straight down to the side. It's going to go straight here. And it's going to go across this point all the way to the fender. So all this stuff on the fender, and whatever angle this is, which we may need to adjust, it's going to avoid these boxes. It's going to be basically doing something like this. It's going to be avoiding the side of the boxes. And then it's going to go from here all the way to that point here, and all the stuff in between is also slate. And once we're done with this is kind of like the final piece. All we gotta do is clean up the lines a little bit, add Portland stone in other places, and then let this dry. Now there's none of this camouflage seems to be going on the running gear, which is thankful. Not that it can't be done, but it's just one less thing to do. You want to make sure everything is in the right place where it needs to be before you commit to adding a lot of detail to it and then find out that you have to redo it. Like, let's make sure everything's lined out how it's supposed to. and you've already put a light coat on it. So all you gotta do is just add another light coat to it. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the turret. So we can clean this stuff in underneath here. And you're going to have an opportunity to clean this stuff up again when you're cleaning up the effects of the wash. That's the main thing to remember is you're not going to get this on the first pass. You're going to get an opportunity to tinker with it some more. Now, here's the part I like to do. It's called put my glasses on and see what the hell I've done. Generally, this is the general shape of the counter scheme on this particular vehicle. So let's fill this in well, which shouldn't take long. And then we get to do what I would call the trickiest part of the whole thing. And it's tricky because of the paint I'm having to use. This paint, by the way, this AK paint, and I always get these two mixed up. Okay? And Vallejo is the same as this. You got to thin this a lot to get it to airbrush, but you can brush paint right out of the bottle, and it covers really well. This airbrushes right out of the bottle, doesn't cover worth a shit. So when I go and try to add color to the areas that have Portland stone, and I got to use this paint, I wish they made the exact same tone in this thickness paint. It'd be a lot easier, but I got a way to get around it. All right, now everybody still following along? There's going to be a quiz in about 4 days. I'm going to mix this up really well, which honestly doesn't even make that much of a difference. This is the Portland base color. Doesn't look like it because it's applied super thin. So we need to take some of this moisture off. And we're going to come in here kind of like with a wet dry brush. And when we go and apply our washes, this is the vehicle that we're going to wash last because it's had the least amount of time to dry. So you have an area here that's the base color. We're just going to kind of wet dry brush this. This is exactly how we did the Marmon Harrington. Here's that prism point. So as much as I like this paint, I don't like this paint. And it's just the consistency of it. It's not the color or anything else. And doing that wash over this helps smooth all this stuff out. So you think like, man, it looks really sloppy. Nah, we're in good hands. We're in good hands. Same thing. Let's just slap this stuff on. Remember, it is really thin, so you don't have to worry about covering up stuff. This is exactly how we did that Marmon Harrington. All right. Let's just continue going around. I'm going to paint the inside of that in this color just for good measure. You need to have some paint on there for the wash to stick. Otherwise the wash won't stick. this is the part of the process where you're probably thinking, if you hadn't seen my end result, like, it's not going to turn out really well, is it? And that's exactly how I thought until I did it. And then it did turn out how I wanted it to. But the important thing you got to remember is you're not going to get it right. You're not going to be where you want to be on the first go. And I don't mean first go from the first time trying it. I'm just, almost all these processes take more than one adjustment as you go. Either you add a wash, or you clean it up the wash, or they're multi-step processes. You know, if you're looking to just paint it in a solid color and putting it in a dip, well, that's your prerogative, but it's not going to get that where I want to be for me. Now, I'm just going to leave the end of the tip smoky like that, and I don't have to worry about darkening it to look like it's been fired. I'm pretty sure a 94mm gun that shoots primarily smoke rounds is going to have a pretty dark barrel end. That's just a guess. Pretty much putting all my money on that one. And like I said, I had every intent of making a how-to paint video like this, you know, and sped up eight times or something like that. Walk you through how I do it. But I can't do this and be mindful of whether or not what I'm doing is in frame. You know, I tried it and it's really frustrating. You do a whole step, spend 30 minutes to an hour on it, and then find out the whole damn thing's out of frame. It's not good for my morale. So please don't ask me to do it. I can't do it. You know, if you want to come here and be my bitch and film, that's fine. You know, but I can't do it. It's too frustrating. So it's just like when I did DBA, you know, we'll teach you anything you want about DBA, but you got to come to the show. Well, I don't have time to make it to the show. Well, you won't find out any of our secrets then. I mean, you got to do your part too. You know, I can't spoon feed you and chew your food for you. Okay, so this is where we're going to start the process of washing. That's where we're gonna start. Okay, and this will be the last one that we wash, so we have time for this paint to adhere in there. Now, I'm gonna set this guy off to the side, and we're gonna do the first one. The first one first. All right. Again, this looks like ass. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this looks terrible. This is not what I want. But this has gotten me where I needed to go 4 or 5 times. I can consistently do it. So let's get strong tone out from Army Painter. And this brush will do, I should probably use a brush that's a little bit more, covers more area. Only thing I don't want to do at this point is be really abrasive with this, because this will wipe off some of the color. But that's okay, we'll be adding more color to it at some point in the process. We're going to go through a lot of this stuff. And we're going to apply this everywhere. So this is Panzer Gray with a little bit of the Sandgrau overspray highlighting in a few places in a very primitive way because I'm a very primitive airbrusher. It's just my lack of experience in using it. I'm getting better every time, maybe. And actually, I like this a little bit better. We're going to use this. And we're just going to cover this entire vehicle in this color. This stuff is self-leveling to a degree. Here is the tender little headlight that I had to replace. I'm actually going to do that. And what I think of this color is, it's like this vehicle came to North Africa and they wanted to paint it yellow and they just gave it kind of a quick overspray of yellow. That's the way I think of the background story of why this vehicle looks like the way it does. And you can tell, even with a wash, you're going from something that looks like this to something that looks like that. And this just adds another, a filter. It adds corrosion, whatever. We're going to do some other corrosion as well on it, but makes the appearance of this vehicle not look consistent all the way from the front to the back. Honestly, makes the vehicle look better than a real vehicle. You go look at a real vehicle at a museum or something like that, it's like freshly painted. And this particular one is a 3D print from Chad at Iron Horse Collectibles. SDKFZ 10/1. Notice I have avoided painting the color on the canvas roof. We'll do that afterwards. It doesn't need this brown wash on it. It's come back to it later. Don't fall down on the job. It is probably the only part of the process I really dislike. I gotta wait for the stuff to dry. And it could be several hours. And then we'll work our way to the back here. This probably takes longer to paint than any of the other ones because of all the nooks and crannies that it has. And I could probably make this mix myself, but you got to delegate things to people. experts do the experting. Now this product is great. Got some loose bristles here for some reason. This Army Painter stuff is great. However, I would not trust this as a final coat. So I wouldn't want to use this as something like, all right, all you got to do is just add this and you're done. It definitely requires cleanup to, have what I would call the correct finished result. All right, now we're going to set this in something somewhat vertical. That's where I missed my things that I had out there. Do I have any styrofoam, anything here? I really don't want to go out to the garage and there we go. We'll just attach it like that and lose my momentum. Possibly get embroiled in something else. As you can see, the natives are restless. All right, that one's down. The Matilda turret, same thing. I had the rest of this Matilda tank done, but due to my hasty request for the Matildas to be built, I asked for the wrong Matilda to be built. So this is going to be the turret that's going to replace the turret on Gorgon. So after this wash is dried, on these particular vehicles, we're going to do a dry brush of the color of the last color that was on this before we apply the wash. So the areas that are more raised are going to look more like the base color of the vehicle than the areas that we washed. Let's just make sure everything has a thin coat on it. Okay. And let's do the same thing with the Crusader. Are there not more of these clippy things? These clippy things are super useful. It's a container I brought them out over there. Just keeps you from getting this stuff all over your fingers. Which, other than having here they are. Other than having them all over your fingers, the problem is you could transfer them onto something else. that doesn't get this wash. This one's about to become uncrimped. You get these from Hobby Lobby here in the United States. I'm sure they sell them all over the world in other places. Let's see if this will do the trick. This piece is very, very light. This is the S model Crusader, one of the 6 that I have. I don't have to make these vehicles for a certain unit in Operation Crusader. I just choose to because in doing so, it allows me to put the arm of service markings on them and other things that adds color and detail and personality to them. That's the only reason I'm doing it. I don't know if most of this stuff's even visible, or we're doing it anyways just out of principle. And one thing I'm going to do different on this one, because I don't want the wash to settle just on only half of the road wheels because of gravity, is I'm going to go ahead and let it dry like so. And do the same thing with the other side of the running gear. The fit and finish on these is so good that, what did I do with the, that I choose not to even assemble these completely. They're just, they hold together really, really well. And let's just get the inside just for good measure in case some of it is visible for whatever reason. Talk about an area where this process is probably wasted. Now, one thing, I actually started painting this the wrong color last night. I didn't go back on this. I didn't go back on the little machine gun turret. So I'm going to move forward with it and see if it works good enough. I think it will, because we're going to have some dry brushing on top of this afterwards. So more concerned about the little turret, but I don't want to fire the airbrush for only that little bit of light stone. Now this stuff is pretty thick. This will cover up details if you're not careful. But add some really nice variation to the color of the vehicle. And I apply this to all the vehicles. these little photo etch things just came undone. The only problem I have really with this models is these little protective things around the headlamps are just such a problem with photo etch. I really wish they had been in plastic instead. It's not like they're that little. All right, I'll be right back in a moment, folks. All right, let's see if we can finish knocking this out. All right. Did we finish all this? Yeah? Okay. Good? Yep. Uh-huh. Yep. All right. Yep. All right. Let's rinse this out. This got all congealed like we've been painting with blood. All right. One turret, one small turret, and then all of the A10. And I'm gonna take a picture of the A10 because it doesn't look very good right now, but It's going to be a knockout. You got to trust the multi-step process. That's the secret. It's multi-step. It's like, oh, I watched it. It doesn't look very good. Well, you're not done yet, dude. Now, unfortunately, what I read about these little turrets on the Crusader 1 is a lot of the times they didn't even man them. They just used them for extra storage. But I can just imagine, I'm not sure whether these were hand-powered or hydraulic. I suspect that they were hand-powered, turning these things around. They probably grinded really bad with sand and stuff that got in there. It's just probably something horrendous. So I'm sure there's a good reason when they start taking armaments off of a vehicle and make them less armed, there's probably a pretty good reason for it. Just like when they took those the Stuart tanks and they removed those little sponson machine guns that they had. They were electrically fired. There's probably a good reason why, jammed all the time or, just wasn't worth the effort. Most of the time they try sticking more guns on things, not removing the guns you already have. But the Crusader tank is kind of an oddity. As its development went on, it started having less and less crew members in it. So the Crusader 1 has more crew members than a Crusader 2 and the Crusader 2 has more crew members than a Crusader 3. So it was kind of like they just got in the way. And this is exactly the same process I do on this Crusader that I did on the one I just finished. So, and likewise, we're going to try to, well, let's get the bottom of the turret. We don't want that to not be painted. Put this in here as vertically as we can, or as horizontally as we can. Okay, and the last one, the A10 that we just did, and hopefully I'm going to go ahead and remove this, put this here. If I didn't do this wash on here, this would not look very good. This is kind of a important process on it. Probably more than any of the other ones. And I'm not a traditional washer. I've just kind of become one because I noticed that the irregularities that it creates gives it the kind of look that I'm looking for. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, let's do these verticals because this could represent all kinds of stuff. This could represent soot, stains, and stuff that stay in the places. Okay. The final stretch here. as I say, don't make any plans. This stuff takes a while. I am going to go ahead and attach this like so. This is self-leveling to a degree. And the main reason I don't use Agrax Earthshade, which is what I used to do, used to use, is because Agrax Earthshade, after a very short period of time, got sticky. So if I went over and put some Agrax Earthshade here, and then went over to the other side and came back here, when I dealt with this, it would be very sticky, and then I have these annoying lines and stuff like that. It can pull off. It's more likely to pull off the paint that's underneath, that sort of stuff. The Agrax Mark II paint. I had a whole bottle of it. I was perfectly happy with. No, I still need more. Just saw you're using that wash straight up. Do you ever thin it down, or is your first round always applied straight out of the bottle? First round is applied straight out of the bottle. If I use it for streaking, I do thin it down some, but right now I'm using this as kind of some people call it modulation. I don't know. You have a whole. If you look at a vehicle, if you look at pictures of a wartime vehicle, not ones in a museum. In a museum, they're all like sprayed and they're all one color and it doesn't look right. But there's all kinds of different types of interesting things that the colors vary because of, you know, whatever stuff they've been through. I mean, just driving through smoke, you know, just picks up all kinds of different stuff. And I really like the way this enhances the look of this vehicle. Um, I think this is needed, and it also, um, in every situation I have seen where I've added this brown, it is really a dark brown. It adds colors to the palette that you're using that are going to be really hard for you to replicate yourself. Um, And I got this idea from watching some guy on YouTube. He did some Sherman tanks before I ever did any, and I'm like, I don't want to do 20 of them and realize there's a better way to do it. So I watched lots of videos, and I want to say it's this guy called Sonic Sledgehammer, and he used Agrax Earthshade, and I used Agrax Earthshade until I had to buy another bottle of it, and they changed the formula anywhere between. I think it's Sonic Sledgehammer. That I'm sure there's other people that do it, but that that I got the idea from, and but I'll look at ideas and I'll take ideas from different people, and it's always learning and improving, But I started doing these without an airbrush, and like this particular vehicle, you can do pretty much anything without an airbrush. It's just speed and consistency. I'm a lot more consistent with a brush than I am with an airbrush. And there's no messy cleanup with a brush. Not as much, anyways. Um, but yeah, when I was doing the ancients and medieval armies, I didn't use washes for anything. there's no washes in that. And I was a fan of washes in the early '90s when I was doing like 1/2400 scale ships, but not anymore until I watched that one video and started doing, you know, vehicles in the last couple of years. Yeah, it's pooling in different places. Now, if there's one thing I don't like about this stuff is it's glossy. And the problem with something being glossy is it really fools your eye into thinking that something's looking shitty and it isn't. So you got to trust the process. The first time I did this, I'm like, this is not going to turn out well. And you don't end the process with this. If you did, then it wouldn't look very good. I don't think. But we're going to come back in each one of those areas that we covered with this, and we're going to kind of dry brush over and clean up. It doesn't take very long actually, and clean up those areas that we covered up with this brown, so that it looks like how I want it to look like. Because one of the problems I have with the way some people paint things, it's just not my style, is I don't like using dusting powders. I don't like anything that's a light color to get into the nooks and crannies of the vehicle. If you looked at a real tank and you drove it through the desert, you would have all this, the powder. It would get in all the nooks and crannies. So it'd be like giving something like a light colored wash. The problem is if you put that on the tabletop for a war game, it looks wrong. It looks wrong at 3 feet away. You're making the whole thing blend, which is not really the look I want it to have. So yeah, I tinker with stuff, and it may not be the most realistic thing, but it works for the tabletop. Same thing if you're doing tires. If I'm doing tires, the correct way to do tires is you paint the tire black, and all of the stuff, the light colored stuff, that's going to be a lighter color than the tire, unless you've got white tires on. Any kind of dirt that you're driving over is going to get stuck in the nooks and crannies of the tire. Well, when I dry brush, I'm doing the opposite. I'm actually making the lighter color on the more raised portions of the tire. So I'm technically doing it backwards, but it looks correct. So, and that's just my personal preference on it. I don't do chipping. I think it's a bit too much. I do chipping type of stuff. I do wear and tear. I just don't do it in a chipping way. So I wonder if I haven't thinned mine too much in the initial application. So what you got to be careful with it is whatever you apply it over, it needs to be, and everything's acrylic. Everything's acrylic. We don't want no nasty chemicals. And like I bought this stuff several years ago on a recommendation of someone that said that it was great. And it might be a great material. Where is it? But did I finally give up and said, get that out of here because I'm never going to use it. Yeah. The Tamiya panel liner. Because you have to coat the entire model in a gloss coat. And why should I have to do that? Because otherwise it eats the other coat. And it works as good as this stuff. It works as good as Nuln Oil. So, I don't need to use enamel, So yeah, when I do the stains, on the Marmon Harrington, which are also done with Army Painter stuff, I do thin those down. Or I tinker with them, let's put it that way. I don't tinker with this base color, because I want it to be relatively dark. Now let's take a look at the Matilda, make sure I didn't miss any spots in the Matilda. And that's exactly how I did the other half of the Matilda. Where's this beautiful thing? Yeah, this is the turret to replace this turret. So we're going to come back, we're going to dry brush the main color that we covered over with the wash, and then pick out certain details, and then do the dustings of the stuff, and that's it. Everything I use is completely acrylic. If I get thirsty, I can drink it, right? Oh wait. Anyhow, so right now the Caunter looks like it's really far away from the end result. But the end result, I think, looks pretty darn good. But there's a lot of steps still to do. There's a lot of steps. So Anyhow, thanks for joining me. We're going to sign off for this one. As you can tell, a lot of it was figuring out how I was going to paint this vehicle, but that's the part I really enjoy, is doing the research. Okay, folks, thanks for stopping.